Most people think getting rich shows up in screenshots, net worth charts up and to the right, bigger houses, bigger cars, bigger everything. But in the real economy, that's not how wealth shows
Your
up.
phone tempts you with
It
ads.
doesn't ring
Your
a
mind
bell at the
flashes to
top.
credit cards.
It doesn't
Pause.
send you a
Is this impulse
notification
spending?
saying you did it. In every cycle, there's a quiet phase where the numbers haven't gone parabolic yet, but your behavior has already crossed to the other side. You're not rich on paper, but you're no longer playing the same game as the average American household living one missed paycheck away from a problem. The weird part is that shift almost never feels exciting. It feels boring, slower, more deliberate.
I'm done missing
So in
out.
this video,
Time to
I'm not
invest.
going to show you how
This
to
goes
flex
into my
wealth.
investment
I'm
folder.
going to show you the subtle, easy-to-miss signs that you've crossed an invisible financial line long before your bank balance makes it obvious. This is where we draw the line between I'm surviving and I'm quietly getting
I've
dangerous
lost everything,
financially.
but Crash
Not
Cycle
in your
can help.
income bracket, not
Subscribe
in your
for
job
financial
title,
wisdom.
in how you move
Those
when
ads
money
on your
shows
phone,
up or
they're designed to tempt
disappears.
you into spending.
At the
See
bottom of the
hesitation?
cycle,
That's your
most
financial
people's
awareness
lives
kicking in.
are fully priced in. Their rent, their car, their subscriptions, their debt payments, every dollar already has a destination before it even hits the account. One surprise bill, one layoff, one rate hike, and the whole month is on fire. Crossing the invisible line doesn't mean you never stress
Let me check
about
my
money
list
again.
first.
It means
No
the
impulse
stress
buys.
stops
Stick to the
owning
plan.
you. You buy yourself margin, a little cash buffer, a little breathing room, and that gap changes how you think. You don't swipe first and panic later. You zoom out before you say yes. And here's the real mind shift. You stop treating money like a scoreboard and start treating it like infrastructure. You're not asking how rich am I this year? You're asking how flexible is my life? How safe is my downside? Who do I get to be on a Tuesday? On paper, nothing dramatic has happened yet. You're still in a normal neighborhood, driving a normal car, working a normal job. But internally, the operating system is new. You're upgrading the plumbing before the flood of capital arrives. Most people only recognize this shift in hindsight. In the moment, it just feels like you've become a little more boring, a little more patient, a little more no. So if your life looks the same from the outside, but your decisions are slower, calmer, and more intentional, that might not be you falling behind. That might be the first proof you've already crossed the line. In every wealth cycle, there's one trait that quietly separates the people who get lucky once from the people who stay rich: delayed gratification. Not talent, not timing, the boring ability to wait. Most Americans are trained to do the opposite. Paycheck hits, dopamine hits, spending follows. New phone, slightly nicer car lease, another I deserve this weekend. The system is built to monetize your impatience. Delayed gratification is you quietly opting out of that script. It's upgrading your 3-year-old phone only when it dies, not when the ad tells you to. It's letting the SUV stay a little ugly while your brokerage account gets a little louder. It's taking the bonus and sending it to assets first, lifestyle second. Psychologists have tested this for decades. The classic marshmallow test found that kids who could wait for a bigger reward tended to do better later in life, in education, income, even health. The details are messy, but the signal is simple. The ability to say not yet compounds. Financially, delayed gratification is what turns a raise into margin instead of a car payment. It's what lets your emergency fund exist in the first place. Even a modest cash buffer can reduce stress and improve decision-making, which feeds back into better money choices. When you practice delayed gratification long enough, it stops feeling like sacrifice. You're not thinking, I'm missing out. You're thinking, I'm front-running my own future. And when the cycle turns, when assets finally reprice and opportunity shows up cheap, the people who waited are the ones with dry powder left to act. Compound interest is where time stops being neutral and starts picking a side, and if you're disciplined, it usually picks yours. This is where being good with money turns into my money has a life of its own. With simple interest, your dollars work once. You put in $10,000, earn 5% a year, and you're clipping the same $500 every year. Linear, predictable, boring. With compound interest, every year's return goes back into the machine. Interest starts earning interest. The graph stops looking like a straight line and starts bending like a hockey stick. That bend is why long-term stock investors, even after inflation and bad decades, have seen solid real annual returns over nearly a century. Not because they timed every top and bottom, but because they stayed in the game long enough for compounding to do the heavy lifting. You don't need lottery-level returns. You need reasonable returns, reinvested relentlessly over an uncomfortably long period. In real life, that looks like this. You let dividends reinvest instead of cashing them out for lifestyle upgrades. You automate contributions, bump them a little each year, and you refuse to blow up the account every time the market sells off. You think in decades, not weeks. At that point, your net worth stops being just a reflection of how hard you grind. It becomes a reflection of how early you started, how consistently you added, and how long you let compounding run without interrupting it. That's the quiet, unsexy middle of the journey, where nothing viral is happening, but the math underneath your life has already changed. The investing mindset is the moment you stop trying to beat the market and start trying to outlast your own impulses. You stop seeing investing as a lottery ticket and start treating it like running a long-term system. Most people think they have an investing problem. They actually have a behavior problem. Fear, FOMO, overconfidence, herd mentality, these are the bugs that crash otherwise decent portfolios. A real investing mindset is simple but not easy. You define your time horizon, your risk tolerance, and your rules before emotions show up. You focus on owning productive assets for long stretches of time, not guessing next month's chart. You judge yourself by one question: did I follow my process? Not, did I nail this week's move? You also expect your brain to betray you. You know you're wired to hate losses more than you love gains, so you build guardrails, automatic contributions, preset rebalancing, a written plan you don't edit in a panic. You accept drawdowns as rent you pay for long-term returns, not as proof you're doing it wrong. When this mindset clicks, your identity shifts from trader trying to be right to allocator running a playbook. The market still swings, headlines still scream, friends still brag about quick wins. But your decisions start coming from your framework, not your feelings. That's when investing stops being gambling and starts quietly making you wealthy. Risk management is where you stop asking how high can this go and start asking what can take me out of the game. Wealth isn't just about upside, it's about making sure one bad event can't erase 10 good years. On the personal side, risk management starts boring. An emergency fund, sensible insurance, controlled debt. 3 to 6 months of expenses in cash so a layoff or medical bill doesn't force you to sell investments at the worst time. Basic health, life, and disability coverage so a single accident doesn't turn into a permanent financial crater. On the investing side, risk management is less about prediction and more about structure. Diversification across asset classes and countries, so one sector or one story stock can't wreck your entire net worth. An asset mix that actually matches your risk tolerance and time horizon, so you're not holding a portfolio you'll abandon in the first real drawdown. As your wealth grows, the risks change. Sequence of returns risk becomes real when you start drawing from your portfolio. Early bad years plus withdrawals can quietly damage an otherwise solid plan. So you adjust, a bit more defense near key life transitions, more liquidity, maybe multiple income streams instead of one. The shift is simple. Stop trying to eliminate risk. Start deciding which risks you're willing to carry on purpose. You accept volatility you're paid to take, and you insure or diversify away the stuff that can permanently harm you. That's how risk management stops being a drag and becomes the shield that lets compounding and your system work for decades. By this point in the journey, the most valuable things you're building aren't even on your brokerage statement. They're the invisible assets, skills, reputation, relationships, and systems that quietly tilt the game in your favor.
Skills and knowledge are your first invisible asset. Every year you deepen one valuable skill set, you quietly raise your earning ceiling without saying a word. You become harder to replace, easier to bet on, and more likely to spot opportunities others miss. Then there's your network, not in the more followers sense, but in the who picks up when you call sense. A small circle of people who trust you and know your work is a form of capital. It opens doors that money alone can't buy. On top of that are your systems, how you manage time, decisions, and energy. Calendars, routines, checklists, automations, all the boring scaffolding that lets you handle more without burning out. If it can be systematized, it can be scaled. All of this rolls up into one thing: optionality. Optionality is the number of real choices your future self has. The ability to say no